Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So, at first, I wasn't going to do a video about this royal wedding, but when I saw this article about Reverend Al Sharpton commenting on this wedding, I had to do this video because this man basically suggested that because this white English prince is marrying some biracial woman, that somehow that's a signal that white supremacy is on its last breath. When I read that statement, all I thought about was how black people are literally losing their minds over this so called royal wedding. Literally losing their minds. I mean, has this man forgotten that the British Empire was built on white supremacy? Has this man forgotten that the British Empire was built on slavery and colonialism? It was literally built on the backs of black people, built on the backs of many people of color. It was literally built on that, built by plundering the wealth of the world from the so called developing world to enrich England. That's how that rich family was built, built on oppression. That's what they were built on. And the fact that you have one prince marrying some biracial woman doesn't mean the end of white supremacy at all, not by a long stretch. I mean, have we forgotten that this woman is not even the first biracial woman to marry one of these so called English royals? Have we forgotten about that? I'll post a link to my sources for this video so that you all can read them for yourself. But this is just completely idiotic. And the statement that Al Sharpton made just symbolizes the hysteria that a lot of people are wrapped up into because of this ridiculous wedding. I mean, I don't understand American fascination, period, with the British royal family. I don't get it. I mean, we're talking about a foreign royal family, but yet Americans are so wrapped up in it, so concerned about that royal family, so concerned about a marriage that's taking place in a completely different country. I haven't seen the American people more concerned about any other weddings besides these royal weddings. You never see this kind of ridiculous media coverage. And the fact that this media is wrapped up in covering this nonsense, this spectacle, it tells you how messed up the media's priorities are. They are more concerned with this ridiculous royal wedding than they're concerned about what's happening in Syria, all those people being killed. They're more concerned about a ridiculous wedding than they are concerned about what's happening in Israel, than they are concerned about the wars that are taking place on our mother continent of Africa. They are more concerned with a royal wedding than they are concerned with about human life in these so-called developing countries. I mean, it just shows you how messed up people's priorities are, and the fact that you have Americans celebrating this marriage just speaks to how ignorant American people are. I mean, I understand people being happy about this American woman marrying this prince, but it's like, I mean, have we forgotten that the United States was a colony of Britain? Have we forgotten that the Americans were colonial subjects to Britain? Have we forgotten about the Revolutionary War fought in this country to free the American people from Britain? I mean, it's like people have lost their mind, literally lost their minds, and they are identifying with these British royals as if they're an extension of our, American family. I mean, and the fact that you got black people celebrating this, man, it tells you just how lost our people are, man. It tells you how brainwashed our people are, how literally programmed they are. The news media has basically told you that this thing is important. They told you that this thing is special, that this is something that deserves all this attention. And a lot of people have been so thoroughly programmed that they go along with whatever the media tells them is important. So because the media is saying that this spectacle, this wedding is so important, you got black people acting like it's important to them as well, when it is absolutely irrelevant to black people's lives. And it goes into this Negropean mentality that our people have. A Negropean mentality where we identify with Europe more so than we identify with our African motherland. We identify with European values, European standards of beauty, European standards of excellence, European standards, period. A lot of us identify with that stuff. That's why we will identify with some foreign wedding that has very little to do with black people. Some of us have more love for Europe than we have for the mother continent of Africa. You know, people get a little bit of money, and the first place that they want to go to is Europe. They have no interest in going to Africa, no interest at all. You know, they're more concerned with European royalty than they are concerned with black royalty. They can tell you about all these European royals and all their gossip and all their personal business, but they can't name any African kings and queens. They can't name any African empires and African kingdoms. They can't name those things because their priorities are all the way messed up. They have been taught to idolize Europe and to demonize their own African selves. And that just speaks to the double consciousness that Brother W.E.B. Du Bois talked about years ago. I mean, it's sad, man. It's a sorry state that our people are in. And then when it goes to this whole issue of the first black princess, as I said before, you know, there have been other people who are biracial who are married into this royal family. That didn't stop them from, you know, participating in colonialism, from participating in the exploitation of Africa and its people and its resources. It didn't stop them from doing that. And this one wedding is not anywhere near any kind of stopping of white supremacy or white supremacy being on its last legs or last breath. I mean, that is so preposterous. People said the same thing when Obama was elected. They had these high hopes and great expectations. And Obama has done great things without a doubt. I've talked about that regularly. But people thought that somehow his presidency had ushered in an era of post-racial politics, of post-racial America. When the fact of the matter is, after that brother was elected, we were reminded of just how racist this country is. You know, with all these police killings, with the killing of Eric Garner, with the killing of Trayvon Martin, with the killing of all these countless people, Walter Scott, and the list goes on and on. We were reminded that no matter who they have in that White House, in the big scheme of things, at the end of the day, you know, black people are still viewed as less than. Black people are still treated as second-class citizens in this country. And white supremacy is alive and well. And we saw that when they elected that bigot, that white supremacist Donald Trump. That was a reminder of just what kind of country we in fact live in. So let's not get all confused. Let's not get besides ourselves and get all excited about this ridiculous wedding to the point where we actually thinking it's the end of white supremacy. There is nothing more ridiculous than that. And in that article, he mentioned something about Michelle Obama and how that was a sign of the end of white supremacy, how white girls were looking up to Michelle Obama, and et cetera, et cetera. But the fact of the matter is, while that was going on, while people were admiring Michelle Obama, you had other people depicting the first family as a family of chimpanzees, depicting the first black president as a terrorist, as a Muslim, as someone foreign to this country, as not even American, as a foreigner. That's how they viewed him. They had pictures of him as a monkey, as an ape, as a witch doctor, as an Arab. So as soon as that brother was elected, we were reminded of just what kind of country this in fact is. It's the country that has always been a country that has its foundation in racism, foundation in the enslavement of black people, foundation in the genocide against the native people. Let's not get crazy and think that all of a sudden, because of this marriage, that's the end of white supremacy. I mean, that is one of the most absurd things that I've ever heard, especially coming from a man who's a so-called activist, who is involved in these cases of police brutality every day, marching and demonstrating. I mean, this brother knows better. I mean, it's like people get so excited. It's like they are intoxicated and their mind is no longer rational. And this whole thing about this first black princess, I mean, there are black women who marry royals, royals from other countries, but you don't see the same kind of attention and news fair and all this and that. I mean, I recall like seeing a meme of a sister marrying a Ethiopian king or prince or something like that. It didn't receive the same kind of fanfare. And then the other thing is this, man. This woman that everybody is celebrating as the first black person, et cetera, is biracial. And I don't have any problem with biracial people, and I view black, biracials who identify with their blackness as black, but I don't see any evidence of this woman embracing blackness. I haven't seen that, and correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't seen her like advocating for black people at all, or being at the forefront of some, rights for people who are killed by these police, or involved in any issues of race and racism or any of that stuff. I haven't heard her talk about race at all. I mean, they are trying to downplay this woman's race. They were trying to downplay it. This is a woman whose mother is black and her father is white. And that brings me to this other thing, man. Not only does she not really press or emphasize her race, I mean, I'm not one of these people that for now, for this particular marriage, I don't have any like big issue about her marrying this white guy. I mean, her father is, after all, a white man, so her marrying a white man is not beyond the realms of reality, or something that's far out there. Given the fact that she was raised by a white man and stuff like that, and a white man was her father, and apparently that's who she was looking up to as a kid and all that kind of stuff. So it's understandable why she would be with a white man. But it just brings me back to this whole point about a lot of biracial people. A lot of times they identify more with their whiteness than they identify with their blackness. And, often what happens when people have biracial children, usually, well, not, well, frequently, what happens is these biracial children continue to marry white people. And eventually, the blackness in the family is completely diluted and just about eliminated, man. I mean, I've seen it happen where you have a black man, for instance, he has a biracial child with a white woman, and then that biracial child goes on and marries some white man or some white woman or something like that, and then they have children, and it goes on, and the cycle continues until eventually you don't even have a black family anymore. You have a white family. And this is just a part of that trend. And then, the last thing I want to touch on is fairy tales. People have these fairy tale notions of marriage, and I think that that's part of the reason why so many people are so excited about this. I mean, since day one, a lot of our young girls have been programmed to view um, the white man as some kind of knight in shining armor. That's what they have been programmed to believe, because all these fairy tales, whether we're talking about uh, Cinderella or Sleeping Beauty and all these other stories where they have some white man saving some white damsel in distress, and they live happily ever after, and they get married and this and that. I think a lot of people have bought into that concept of marriage, and this idea of living happily ever after and having some prince rescue and save them. I think that's part of the reason why a lot of women are so excited about this, because it's a fulfillment of their dreams and their imagination. And I think these distorted, fantastical ideas of marriage are part of the problems with, part of what creates this problem in relationships, man. People have unrealistic expectations. And I think that that's problematic. And, at the end of the day, I don't have any issue with this woman and her marriage. It's not about her and her marriage. I wish them the best or whatever, but it's like it's about the reaction. It's about the obsession. It's about like people literally losing their minds over this stuff, and it's about how much attention this has received. That is my problem. So tell me what y'all think. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. Peace.